So, I've just woken up pretty much. Not sure what time it is just yet, but I had a weird dream. Not like a vision or anything, but a weird dream. And it was just like, I wish I could have dreams where, like, I'm somehow not wrong. Like, where people maybe like me and aren't trying to work against me to do horrible things to me, maybe. In this particular dream, I got into let's just say a disagreement with someone that I know. And then essentially what happened is like a bunch of like their characters appeared to like do horrible things to me. Basically, there's no like good way to say it. And afterwards I had like a conversation with, how do I explain this? Let's say the concept, like I had a conversation with the concept of a OC who's like not necessarily fully developed, but represents like a huge traumatic issue regarding like rape and stuff. And I think that if people are uncomfortable with like illusions or descriptions of like various characters' experiences with rape, then, well, I've been working for a while on how to make it so that people don't feel like they're reading rape torture porn, basically, when they like figure out various stuff that's going on. And it's like rape culture is horrible and terrible. And because of my experience with rape and the like, it's like when you make a lot of your OCs like gay or trans because that's what you are, and then you have a lot of OCs, technically, maybe not a lot of OCs, but you have OCs that end up experiencing like trauma with rape and other things. And it's forever a really sticky subject. There's like no easy way to address it. And there's no easy way to address characters who commit those actions. And there's no easy way to address characters who receive those actions. And trying to get to a point of reconciliation rather than like eternal hatred and a vicious forever cycle of just resentment and destruction. I think it's healthy to at least attempt to get to a more neutral place of, well, I'm not really sure how to describe it, because when I experienced my rapes, it was like, how do I explain this? I don't know how to explain this other than when I experienced all of that and had to go through all of that, it was like I didn't want to hate the person. It was just sad. And I didn't even necessarily know what was happening to me. And I think that one of my fears, I suppose, is that I'll like end up doing something like that to somebody else by accident or something, I guess. Because like I didn't experience a cinematic theater type thing where you're walking down the street and it's dark out and then a stranger has accosted you and now you're going to go to their basement and die. That's very extreme. It's not what happened to me. I don't really want to like get into details about what happened to me yet. I probably will at some point, because when you spend like years holding this stuff inside because you're like afraid of what the response of other people will be, parts of your soul just start to rot. It's too bad. But onto this character concept or whatever. I think they were one of the first characters in a while that I consciously decided was like, okay, this character is a rapist, and what they do is really bad. But can they possibly grow out of that and into something else? Can they like possibly even begin to like escape and heal from that sort of past? And a lot of people are gonna really say no, which is kind of like why I don't want to make that character, because it's difficult to write people who have committed atrocities and then get the audience to forgive them if they've experienced those atrocities. Like the kill all rapists, kill all abusers culture is can't say I haven't like participated in it at least sometimes over the years, but I don't like to really consider myself an active part of that type of community and thinking, because this, I guess, ties into my relations with like crime and punishment and like all that other stuff that fascinates me, blah 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 blah. But I have feelings on the idea of like capital punishment and just how we address these things in society, which is flawed at the moment. I wish things could be different, but I guess the only thing that can make things different is if I help make the changes that I want to see. And a part of that is writing at least some material that is extremely personal to the ideas and concepts around sexual assault and rape and all that other stuff. And how do I'm gonna actually like save I'm gonna save the topic of like weird things with people out there who have various kinks and sexual predispositions or whatever. Actually, no, not. Excuse me, I have to stretch. Okay. Yeah. So, people who have like a favor or inclination to stuff like rape, dubcon, and non-con, and just all that like really ugly territory of stuff that is not really something that I want to be around or consume. But like, I know people who are at least maybe not into like violent rape, but like dubcon basically. And yeah, well, the nature of some stuff, like some fetishes, is just, yeah, I'm gonna save that for another video. I mean, not video, but recording. Ultimately, I just woke up, and I'm not really trying too hard to have a filter, and yet I am, because I don't want to get ultra graphic for anybody who's maybe sex repulsed, that I would end up sharing stuff with, because I just think that that would be kind of weird. But it's also like why I don't necessarily actively seek out other ace people to be friends with, because of all the sexual stuff that will inevitably come up, either from my past or the stuff to do with characters or stories or whatever. I'm not saying that you can't be friends with me if you don't like not safe for work things or sexual things or whatever, but ultimately those things turn out to be pretty personal to me on several levels. So not being able to like discuss extremely personal things with people who are supposed to be my friends is it sucks, basically. And I still don't have it in me to describe what sort of things happened to me to traumatize me about certain things. And there's just a lot of trauma that happens around me in real life, I suppose you would say. And then trauma that I see surrounding other people. And then trauma that appears in my own work and stories and stuff like that. And it's just hard to deal with at times, because it's such sticky stuff. Such stuff that has knee-jerk reactions from a lot of people, because it's just so charged. Like, it's very heavy. I wonder if there will be Law and Order special victims units in the future as like a meme noise that happens in my head when I have to tell people or explain people about just sexual assault stuff that's happened in either to myself or stories. But like, gosh, this is what's hard, because on some level I can find humor in it, shockingly. Like, hearing the Law and Order noise which is, I still don't actually know what that noise is. It's like supposed to be probably the pounding of a gavel, but like totally exaggerated. And I don't know, something about describing something that's like somewhat obscure in relation to me and then somebody playing that kind of like music, I think I would probably laugh. I'm laughing right now, at least, because it's just so ridiculous. But like, I'm sure there would be people who would be super, 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 super upset about essentially making light of experiences because it's all traumatic. It doesn't really matter if you were like maybe briefly molested in passing by maybe an older kid or adult or another younger kid, whatever, and it only happened for like a second. Or if you go into like the extreme end of the spectrum where you're abducted and taken to a place of basically no return. And then, you know, that's the end, including everything before it. So, that is all stuff that I've decided to talk about because I had a really weird dream where I felt like that because I had hurt somebody, that essentially I deserved to be sexually assaulted or something, except the details of how like I hurt the person didn't have anything to do with performing sexual assault myself. It mostly just included causing them emotional pain somehow by like probable accident, and then these entities just being hostile manifestations of I guess I don't know how to explain it really, but in relation to other stuff just all over the place, it's just those kinds of dreams where it's like, well, you deserve to have this happen to you is just no one deserves to be raped. I don't care if it's to, like, dole out punishment to somebody who's done, like, horrible, horrible shit, like pedophilia or child torture or just torture in general or just any sort of other stuff. Like, no. No. Sexual assault to combat sexual assault doesn't it doesn't work. If anything, it just improves a culture of fear and horror surrounding the subject. And people might say, well, we kill people to show that killing people is wrong, and that's gotta be like the most warped, horrible understanding of what capital punishment is. I could like I'm sorry, I have to laugh because it's so cartoonish. No, you don't kill people because of that. You kill people to remove them as a threat to other people. You don't do it to, quote, show that murder or whatever is wrong. You do it to eliminate the threat from society as soon as possible. Because ultimately they are still threats to society and other people. So in relation to that, I'll just mention this brief period when I was on Tumblr. And I can't remember what their URL was, but it was during a phase where I was having a lot of political discussions on Tumblr or whatever. Not necessarily getting into arguments or whatever, but I ended up coming across something that made me think I better write a post on capital punishment and what my stances are on that, because might be useful for some people to know. So at the time, I wrote a post on my views on capital punishment, which I will maybe make a recording on. Who knows? And there was somebody who came along and was like, no, execution in all contexts is wrong when committed by the state. It's just not good. It's never okay, ever. And I was like, I understood that viewpoint because execution via the state or government is, well, the state and government are kind of funky little individuals, I would say, in terms of the horrific social meta that we live in right now. But then, okay, well, does that mean a private citizen gets to execute somebody who's done something horrible, and that makes, like, that's the situation that makes it okay or whatever? Because how do you remove threats from the population when you're under the impression or know that who you're dealing with can't be rehabilitated? There's always like this optimistic hope that, you know, humanity will shine through and the good nature of all will be revealed, but that's just not how it is for everyone. Some people are just bad. And isn't that a sad story? That people will go so far down the rabbit hole that there's no point of return. There's no rehabilitation. There's just, if anything, a smugness for them for going that far. And how they're now unreachable, essentially. And those types of people who, you know, they don't have any remorse, they took satisfaction in what they did, blah, 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 other things. Those types of people, I would say, on principle, are extremely dangerous and need to be removed from the freeness of open society. Somehow, I don't care if it's sending them to an isolated island, but watch out, because then you could just get fucking Australia 2.0, 2.5, 3.0 versions expanding as we go. Or a prison system, even though the prison industrial complex is just as evil as the military industrial complex. And ultimately, capital punishment of execution. Because I really sometimes wonder if people who are against capital punishment or prison have actually been domestically assaulted or abused or raped or under any sort of personal and intimate attack, where all you want is to have the person not hurt anybody and get locked away. Like, there are people who are anti-stuff, like, you know, they don't want prisons or they don't want other stuff like that. Or maybe they don't even want war, which is fine. But if they can't see how these things come about or came about in the first place, that's not necessarily, in my humble onion, a good place to be in terms of dissecting the logic around all of the situations that we have to deal with. But what do I know? I just woke up and yeah.